Hey juniors, today we're going to talk about triangular trade in the colonies. So in the top right hand corner of your notes, go ahead and write today's date, which is 7/30/2014. Below it, you can write our objective, which is triangular trade. Our essential question for the day is what is triangular trade and how does it apply to the 13 colonies? Feel free to pause the video and go ahead and write our essential question down. So let's talk about Britain's trade relationships with the colonies. Remember, Britain founded its colonies to make money off of them, as the Spanish did. So the relationship can best be described as interdependent. And interdependence is a state of being where two parties mutually need each other. Example, the colonists sell wood to Britain, who make boats from that wood. The colonies make money, and Britain makes boats. So let's talk about what England wanted from its colonies, although we just hit on it in the earlier slide. England had a special relationship with its colonies. And remember, the English colonies had resources and crops like timber, tobacco, sugarcane, and indigo that the English government wanted but didn't have access to in Britain. Now this is a good vocab word for us. Timber. It's wood prepared for building and carpentry. And you can see this is a picture of what timber would look like. And it's any kind of wood that would be used to build a home or a ship or a boat. In turn, the English government provided manufactured goods like guns, powder, clothing, cigarettes in exchange for timber, tobacco, sugarcane, and other natural resources. So another example of the relationship would be the colonies growing tobacco to sell to England, who buys the tobacco, turns around, makes cigarettes from the tobacco, and sends them back to the colonies. As you can see, these last two bullet points are bolded and underlined, so you do need to have those in your notes page. Okay, let's talk a little bit about mercantilism. Remember, England founded its colonies to make money off of them. And when people are making money, they try to make as much money as possible, as I'm sure you've experienced yourself. So as a result of wanting to make a lot of money, England began to practice mercantilism. And mercantilism is another vocabulary word for us. Mercantilism is a system of creating and maintaining wealth through controlled trade. So think of mercantilism this way. How can I get rich and stay rich? The best way to do both of those things is to control the laws. That's exactly what England decided to do. They decided to control trade laws. Between 1650 and 1696, the English government passed a series of laws called the Navigation Acts. And the Navigation Acts were designed to make Britain as wealthy as possible. The first Navigation Act stopped colonists from trading specific items, such as sugar and cotton, with any other country other than England. So again, when we're thinking about our trade relationship, we think about the crops that come from North America, like sugar, cotton, iron, lumber, or timber, and that type of thing, that's then sent to England in exchange for furniture, tools, textiles, and that type of thing. But as a result of only being able to trade items with England, colonists had to buy all of its manufactured goods from Britain, which was sometimes at a very high price. So as a result, England was getting extremely wealthy from this relationship. Now, these acts angered the colonists. And think about it this way. How would you feel if there were two types of t-shirts you could buy, but you were forced to buy the more expensive one every single time, even though the two t-shirts were exactly the same? It would probably make you a little upset. So go ahead and get this first bullet point down in your notes, and then we can go ahead and continue with the video. All right, let's get into specifically what triangular trade is and how it affects the trade relationship. So trade between the American colonies and Great Britain was not always direct, and it became a system known as triangular trade. And triangular trade is a system in which goods and slaves were traded among the Americas, Britain, and Africa. So again, if we look at our map, we see that natural resources and crops that are grown in America are being sent to Europe. Manufactured goods are then sent back. And manufactured goods are also sent to Africa. And in Africa, slaves are sent to America. So you can see this whole thing goes in a triangle. And that's exactly the relationship that was occurring. And remember, when slaves were sent from Africa to North America, they were brought on a route known as the Middle Passage. And we learned that on Monday. So go ahead and make sure that you have this definition for triangular trade written in your notes page. And pause the video if you need to. So before we move on, we're going to go ahead and watch a little clip on triangular trade so we can get a better idea of it.
Boston and the 13 colonies are an economic powerhouse, critical to Britain. Nearly 40% of everything exported from Britain makes its way to America. The fishing fleet ships thousands of tons of salted cod to the Caribbean. Returns with sugar and molasses, raw material for rum, taxed by the British after every exchange. In Africa, rum is the currency used to purchase the most profitable cargo of all. African slaves. Between 1700 and 1800, more than 250,000 Africans are brought to the American colonies.
Okay, that's enough of that. So where does this leave the colonists? For the most part, the colonists were okay with their trade relationship with Britain. After all, Britain provided them with manufactured goods, which were pretty high quality, while they grew the crops and products to be manufactured in Europe. However, some colonists did disagree with the trade relationship and thought it was unfair that they had to buy overpriced manufactured goods and did not have a choice of where to buy things. And these are the first roots of a divide between Britain and the colonies. And issues like these would lead to the American Revolution. Again, we see another example of triangular trade here. Raw materials going to Europe, manufactured goods being sent to Africa, slaves being sent to North America to grow more raw materials. That's going to be it for Intro to New Material today. Thanks for listening, guys.